Welcome back to Speaking Places. This is part 2 of our special episode, If the Acropolis of Athens Could Talk. In the first part, we heard the Acropolis speak about gods, temples, and empires. Today, it continues through war, silence, and survival. Let's return to the stones that remember, and listen to what they still have to say. Gods, offerings, and prayers. Before the tourists. Before the cameras. Before the cracks and the scaffolding. I was a place of gods. Not just one. Many. Athens was not a city of one belief. It was a city of offerings. A city where people spoke to the sky, to the sea, to the spirits of the earth and air. They believed the divine was everywhere. And I, the Acropolis, was where heaven and earth touched. People climbed my steps not just to look, but to connect. To bring gifts, to give thanks, to ask for protection, rain, victory, forgiveness. They came as families, as warriors, as citizens, and I listened. At the heart of it all was Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, of strategy and strength. But she was not fierce like Ares. Her war was calm, thoughtful. She defended more than attacked. Athenians believed she watched over the city. They called her Athena Parthenos, the Virgin, the Protector. They gave her the Parthenon, the grandest temple ever built in her honor. Inside, for many years, stood her statue. Towering, golden, glowing. She held a shield in one hand, and a small figure of Nike, the goddess of victory, in the other. People would travel for days, just to look at her. Some bowed. Some left wreaths. Some simply stood in silence. It wasn't just about religion. It was about identity. To love Athens was to love Athena. But she wasn't alone. Nearby was the small temple of Athena Nike. Graceful and light. Here, warriors prayed before battle. They left weapons as gifts. They carved their hopes into marble walls. There was also the Erechtheion. Strange and sacred. It honored more than one god. Here, Poseidon, god of the sea, was remembered. The mark of his trident, a crack in the stone, was believed to be divine. Here, the people honored the old myths. The contest between Athena and Poseidon, for the soul of the city. Even Zeus, the king of the gods, had a small place in their prayers. So did Artemis, Apollo, Hermes, and others. This was not one story. It was a web of belief. A world full of symbols. Sometimes there were festivals. Panathenea was the greatest. Every 4 years, the city celebrated Athena's birthday. The streets below me filled with music. Dancers in bright robes spun through the agora. Young men ran races. Old men recited poems. Women wove a new robe, a peplos, for the goddess. And when it was time, a great procession moved up to me. Hundreds climbed my hill. They carried olive branches, baskets of fruit, small animals for sacrifice. At the front, the new robe was held high, to be placed on Athena's statue. It was a moment of unity. Rich and poor, young and old, all together in honor of their protector. The air was full of song. The marble echoed with joy. I was not just a sacred hill. I was the city's soul. But even as beliefs changed, even when new gods came with new empires, people still came to me. Some brought different names. Some prayed in Latin, others in silence. Yet the feeling stayed the same. Wonder, respect, hope. That's what religion was here. Not rules, but relationship. A way to speak to the world beyond. A way to feel less alone under the stars. Many gods have passed through my temples. Many prayers have floated up into my air. Not all were answered, but all were heard. In the next part, the world beyond Athens begins to knock louder. The Romans are coming, and with them, a new chapter. The Roman gaze. New footsteps echoed on my stone. Heavier. Stronger. Different. They did not speak in Greek. Their words were harder. Full of order and pride. They were Romans. At first, they came as visitors. Travelers. Lovers of stories. They had heard of me. Of Athens. Of the birthplace of wisdom. And they came to see it for themselves. They stood beneath my columns. Eyes wide. Sketching my temples in notebooks. Touching the carvings like they touched old friends. They admired what they found. But admiration can turn to ambition. Soon, they wanted more than stories. They wanted ownership. And so, one day, they returned. Not as guests, but as rulers. The Roman Empire took Athens into its arms. Not with fire, but with force wrapped in elegance. They didn't destroy me. No. They were too smart for that. Instead, they claimed me. They walked through my temples with confidence. As if they had built them. They placed their own statues beside Athena. Their gods wore new names. Their emperors stood tall in bronze. They changed the language of prayer. They changed the rhythm of the city. But I still stood. The people of Athens had no choice. They adapted. Some whispered the old names in secret. Some welcomed the new ones openly. They still climbed my hill. They still touched the stones. But now, they did it under the gaze of Rome. There was one Roman who loved me more than most. Hadrian. An emperor. A builder. A man with a mind for beauty. He did not come to conquer. He came to admire. To preserve. To leave his own mark, not by destroying, but by adding. He built libraries, baths, and arches across Athens. He restored broken walls. He gave money for temples. He honored both Greek gods and Roman ones. And he walked among my columns with true respect. They say he stood in the Parthenon and whispered, "Even Rome learns from Athens." For a moment, under Hadrian, I felt seen again, valued, even loved. But empires rise like waves, and fall just the same. When Hadrian was gone, others came. Some cared. Many did not. Bit by bit, the silence grew again. One day, a Roman soldier carved his name into my wall. Another broke off a small statue. A souvenir for home. What had once been sacred was now becoming souvenir. Still, I remained patient. Stone always is. I had seen gods change before. I had heard new languages rise. This was not the end. But it was another layer. By now, my stones had held the footsteps of Greeks, of Persians, of Spartans, and now Romans. And still, the sun rose. And still, the wind carried prayers. But something deeper was coming. Not another empire. Not another temple. A new idea. A new god. A god with only one name. In the next part, I will tell you how the world shifted once again. Not by sword, but by faith. The one God. For centuries, I had watched many gods pass through me. Athena with her shield. Poseidon with his trident. Nike with her wings. So many names. So many faces. All living together in stone. In prayer. In the hearts of people who believed. But then came something different. Not a new statue. Not another temple. But a new idea. One God. Invisible. Unseen. But everywhere. The name was whispered at first. Spoken only in corners. Then slowly it grew louder. Christianity. At first, many Romans rejected it. They laughed. They punished. They feared it. But belief spreads like wine through olive branches. Quiet, steady, unstoppable. One day, the Roman Empire changed its mind. A new emperor, Constantine, accepted the one God. He made the new faith legal, then official, then powerful. And the old gods? They faded. Their temples were closed. Their statues were broken. Their names were forgotten by many. And me? I changed too. The great Parthenon, once home to Athena, was turned into a church. Not torn down, but transformed. The altar was moved. The images were painted over. Crosses replaced shields. Icons replaced goddesses. People still came. They still sang. They still prayed. But now they prayed to a man who had walked with fishermen, to a God who spoke of peace, of sacrifice, of eternal life. The rhythms changed. The festivals were quieter. No more races through the streets. No more animal offerings. Instead, candles, hymns, simple robes, and softer steps. I watched it all with calm silence. I did not resist. I simply adapted. Because I am not made only of gods. I am made of belief. And belief, like wind and rain, always finds new paths. Some said the old gods were angry. Some feared curses or punishment. But I felt no rage. Only change. The marble does not judge. It only holds memory. And I held both. The memory of Athena's gold. And the sound of monks singing in the dark. Centuries passed. The language changed again. Now they spoke in Greek once more. But it was different. Softer, shaped by time. The church within me became a holy place. They called it the Church of the Virgin Mary. People lit candles before my walls. They wept. They married. They buried their dead in my shadow. I was no longer just a symbol of Athens. I was a house of the holy. For a time, peace returned. No armies. No empires collapsing. Just quiet faith. But nothing in history stays still for long. Far away, new powers were rising. And they would soon come. Bringing not crosses, but crescent moons. Another transformation was near. And with it, another name. In the next part, I will tell you how I became something entirely new. Not Greek. Not Roman. Not Christian. But still standing. Still watching. Still listening. Under the crescent moon, history shifted again. Not slowly this time, but with fire, speed, and change. It was the 15th century. The Byzantine Empire was weak. The old roads cracked. The borders broke. And then, from the east, the Ottomans came. They were strong, organized, determined. They took Constantinople. They moved west. And finally, they came to Athens. When they entered, they looked up. And there I was. The Acropolis. Still high, still watching. Still holding memory in stone. They didn't destroy me. No. Like others before them. They saw the value in marble. They saw power in high places. So they made me theirs. The Parthenon, once a temple, then a church, was now turned into a mosque. A minaret was added beside the columns. Thin, tall, like a finger pointing to the sky. Inside, the crosses were covered. The icons were removed. Rugs were placed on the floor. And the sound of prayer changed again. No more Latin. No more Greek chants. Now came the call to prayer in Arabic. Soft. Melodic. 5 times a day, it echoed from my height. Rolling across hills. Drifting through olive groves. And still, people came. To pray. To pause. To feel close to something greater than themselves. I had heard many kinds of prayers. These were no less sincere. The Ottomans respected my age. They used me as a fortress too. They stored supplies inside the Parthenon. They built homes along my edges. They raised their families in my shadow. Children laughed on my steps again. Mothers sang lullabies beside broken statues. It was not glory, but it was life. But life, once again, would not stay peaceful. In 1687, war came once more. Not from the east, but from the west. The Venetians, seeking to push back the Ottomans, attacked Athens. They didn't mean to destroy the Parthenon, but they didn't know what was stored inside. A Venetian cannonball flew through the air. and struck me. Right in the heart. The explosion was terrible. Fire, smoke, stone. Everything cracked. Half the Parthenon was torn apart. Columns fell. Statues shattered. The roof blew open to the sky. And I wept. For all I had held, all I had become, was broken in a moment. What the Persians failed to do, what time could not achieve, a single cannonball had done. Still, I remained. Wounded, yes, but alive. After that day, people looked at me differently. Not just as a place of prayer, but as a ruin, a relic, a treasure from another world. The Ottomans stayed in Athens, but their focus moved elsewhere. My stones were left exposed. Pieces of sculpture were taken. Some sold, some stolen. And far away, in Britain, a man named Lord Elgin arrived. He admired my beauty, but instead of leaving it, he took it. He removed many of my greatest sculptures. The friezes, the figures, the marble stories. He shipped them across the sea. They now sit in a museum, far from the sun that shaped them. People still argue about it. Some say he saved them. Others say he stole them. I only know this. A part of me is missing, and I feel it. But I do not blame. I do not forget. I only wait. Because the story is not finished. In the next part, I will tell you how I began to awaken again. Not as a church or mosque or temple, but as a symbol of culture, of memory, of what must never be lost again. The return of light. After centuries of silence and shadow, something changed. The air grew different, lighter. Hope stirred like a new breeze through the olive trees. Europe was waking up. The world was turning again. And I, the Acropolis, was about to wake too. In the 19th century, a new Greece was born. After many years under Ottoman rule, people wanted to remember, to reclaim their past, to rebuild their future. They looked to me, to my broken stones, to my fallen columns. They saw not ruins, but a promise that even after war, after loss, after time, something beautiful can return. Archaeologists and architects came with gentle hands. They studied every crack, every chip. They drew maps. They dreamed of restoration. The world began to see me not as a forgotten hill, but as a symbol of freedom and culture. And slowly, pieces of me were brought back. Not the stolen statues far away, but the stones here, waiting to be fixed. Countries from around the world send help, send knowledge, send hope. Tourists started coming again. Not to take, but to learn. To walk my steps with respect. They looked up at the Parthenon's columns, still strong despite time. They felt the wind that had carried centuries of stories. Poets wrote about me again. Artists painted me. Musicians played beside me. I became a place where past and present met, where history whispered, but also spoke loud and clear. The Acropolis was no longer just a ruin. It was a living memory, a place to remember who we are, and who we can become. But restoration is not simple. Every stone has a story. Every crack has a secret. And sometimes, trying to fix the past means facing difficult truths. Many debated how much should be restored. Some wanted to rebuild completely, to bring back the golden age in full glory. Others said, let the scars stay. They are part of history. So I remain, a blend of old and new, a monument to endurance, a reminder that time changes everything. But some things must never be forgotten. Today, I am a place where people gather. Students learn. Tourists marvel. Locals celebrate. At night, my stones glow softly under the city lights. I watch the stars. I listen to the city's heartbeat. And I whisper my stories. Stories of gods and heroes. Of war and peace. Of loss and hope. Because history is not only about what was lost, but what is found again. In the next part, I will share how modern Athens and I grow together. How the past and present live side by side, under the shadow of the Acropolis. Living with the past. I am not just ancient stones. I am part of a living city. A city that breathes, moves, and changes every day. Athens is no longer a quiet place. It is full of life. Cars hum along the streets. People chatter in cafes. Children run and play near my base. But even in the noise, I remain a calm presence. Visitors from around the world come to see me. They come to touch history, to feel a connection to something greater, to remember. Sometimes, I hear their whispers, their questions, their wonder. Who built you? What stories do you hold? Can you tell us about the past? I try to answer in silence. My stones speak without words. Each crack, each mark, is a page in a long story. But living with the past is not always easy. The city grows. New buildings rise. Sometimes, people forget to look up. Pollution covers my face. Traffic hums beneath my feet. The modern world pushes closer. Yet I stand firm. A bridge between time. Between ancient and modern. People in Athens work hard to protect me. They clean my stones. They study my history. They teach the young about my stories. Museums nearby hold treasures from me. They show the art, the tools, the everyday objects that tell how people lived long ago. And the people of Athens celebrate me. Every year, during festivals, music fills the air. Dances bring joy. Stories come alive. I am part of their identity. A symbol of endurance. A reminder that history is alive. Not just in books, but in the heart of a city. Sometimes, I watch as artists paint me. Photographers capture my shadows. Writers create new stories inspired by me. And I listen to the footsteps of students and dreamers. Their hopes and fears. Their plans for the future. Because history is not only about the past. It is also about today and tomorrow. I am more than marble. More than ruins. I am a living memory. In the next and final part, I will share my hopes for the future. How I wish to inspire generations to come. To teach, to protect, and to remind the world why places like me matter. The future speaks. I have seen centuries pass. I have heard empires rise and fall. I have watched people come and go. But now I look forward. The world changes faster than ever. Technology, cities, ideas, all move with incredible speed. Sometimes, it feels like history is forgotten. Like the old stones are just stones. Like the stories I hold are just tales. But I believe in the power of memory. In the power of place. I want to be more than a relic. More than a tourist stop. More than a photo on a screen. I want to be a teacher. A guide. A voice. I want to remind people why we build. Why we create. Why we tell stories. Because stories connect us. They link past to present. And present to future. I hope that every visitor feels this. That they don't just see my marble columns, but feel the hearts and hands that built me. I hope young people learn from me. That they see the strength in endurance. The beauty in resilience. I hope I inspire those who work to protect history. Because without care, without love, these stories fade. And I hope the world listens. That they hear not just my stones, but my spirit. That they understand how important it is to respect and protect places like me. Because in these stones, we find ourselves. In these stories, we find meaning. And in remembering, we find hope. The future is not just what comes next. It is what we build together. It is the legacy we leave behind. So I ask you, listen carefully. Look closely. Feel deeply. I am here. I have stories to tell. And I will speak. as long as someone listens. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for walking with me through history. Until next time, keep the past alive and carry its lessons into the future. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time. If you enjoyed hearing the stories of the Acropolis, please subscribe and share with friends who love history and culture. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which places should speak next? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, keep exploring. And remember, every place has a story waiting to be told.